Okay, the next thing we're going to look at very, very briefly is the idea of an infinite multiverse. You see a lot of infinity in so, oh no.
Just spin it around, spin it around.
Pause to remember.
Okay, that's enough.
It's not November.
Ta-da!
Pause to remember it's not November.
Right, infinity, the idea of an infinite multiverse, it seems very appealing, and in fact science uses infinity a lot to deal with problems that it can't otherwise deal with. So for instance, at the beginning of the universe, if somebody were to ask where does all that energy come from, someone like Hawking or Penrose would reply, it doesn't come from anywhere, it's always there, it's just infinitely small, and infinitely dense, and infinitely hot. It's a singularity. There's no need to wonder what paradigm this energy is coming from. It's in the universe from the start. It's just so tight. Basically, it's gone through the zero line in the graph. We don't want to believe there's anything here, so we're saying it's infinitely small, infinitely dense, infinitely hot. And then it goes through its little lifespan, and it collapses through the heart of a black hole. People say, where has it gone? It hasn't gone anywhere. It's just infinitely small, infinitely dense, and infinitely hot. Anyway. So, okay, so your explanation of the universe is extremely unlikely. So, I don't worry, because we're an infinite multiverse. And it's like, okay, so infinity is kind of being brought in a lot of the time. Whenever we come up against a kind of like a difficult problem, or the kind of math isn't working out, we kind of go, okay, fine, just chuck an infinity in there and that will deal with it. So, the universe is entirely self-contained because we assume, although there's no reason to assume this, that it can go down into a point of zero but still be there. And we assume it can go down to point zero and still be there. We assume there's an infinite multiverse. And indeed, the funny thing is that this actually chimes with some rather old-fashioned ideas in physics. Newton and Einstein were both working in a universe that they felt contained infinities. They thought, for instance, the universe was a kind of unchanging continuum, or as Newton referred to it, a sensorium for God, because he wasn't an atheist. But that the universe in which the Earth exists is a timeless place. It's a place that kind of exists perpetually into the future and perpetually into the past, which essentially allows everything to happen, because of course we've got infinite amounts of time, we've got infinite opportunities for things to happen. It was only when it was noticed by Edwin Hubble the universe was expanding, and so therefore had come from a point at some point, which was the Big Bang, that it actually became clear that the universe wasn't a kind of infinite continuum. It was the thing that starts, has this kind of rocketing lifespan, and then comes to either a heat death at one end or a big crunch, and in the middle there's this tiny little slice which is the bit where it's even possible for us to live. We don't have an infinite number of opportunities, we don't have an infinite number of chances. This is it, so we have to kind of squeeze ourselves into here, and we have to agree, and that really limits the chances of us existing in an atheist world. And we've got rid of a lot of infinities. For instance, you can't be infinitely fast. There's a top speed limit. Anybody know what it is? You know.
3, what is it? 1, 2, blah blah blah.
It's the speed one. Yeah. So we've got a top speed limit, which is c. It's the speed of light. You can't get any faster. Basically, the maths, the universe doesn't allow it. We've got the minimum temperature. Do you know what it is, Jez?
Well, these are both arguable, actually, to be honest.
Well, within the universe, we've got a minimum temperature.
0. Absolute
0
Degrees
degrees
Kelvin.
Kelvin. You can't get any colder. You can't just keep getting colder and colder and colder. You can't get faster and faster. We've got a minimum length. You know what that is? 1 plank. That's like as in Max Planck, I think, as opposed to is named after a builder.
CK, isn't it?
Is it?
I think.
Why? Per plank.
So at the end.
Oh right.
It's not P. It's a little.
So you've got these minimum lengths. It actually appears that when we follow the universe out in different directions, we actually find that it's within very strict parameters. Infinity doesn't exist anywhere in it, or as Max Tegmark commented, who's a very leading cosmologist, it's not the outcome of any experiment. The universe doesn't contain any infinities we've managed to see. It actually seems as if the universe is limited. According to Hawking and Penrose, the amount of bits, if you like, of information that a universe can contain is proportional to the area of its horizon, I might say event horizon, and they worked it out to be, I think it was 1 times 10 to the power 122, which is an astronomically large number, but they're saying that is the limit. You can't go any further than that. There are no infinities in our universe, and there never have been. It's more like being inside a computer program, if you like, that only has a fixed number of bytes, and everything has to be done within those limits. So the whole idea of infinity certainty is, as Max says, it's the ultimate untested assumption. We literally just kind of go, fuck it, it makes our maths work, or it saved my theory, so I'm going to use it. And the truth of the matter is that there's no reason to believe it even exists, and that there's anything about the universe that is infinite. I might just read you something here. So this has actually led to people kind of looking into the way in which computers do it, because we don't actually do the maths on the cosmos ourselves these days. We just put it into a computer and let the computer crunch the numbers. And computers obviously have a limited number of bytes, and yet they still manage to produce the outcomes that we require, because they use like a floating point arithmetic that kind of approximates things. Tegmark, for his part, is intrigued by the fact that the calculations and simulations that physicists use to check a theory against the hard facts of the world can all be done on a finite computer. That already shows that we don't need the internet for anything that we're doing, he says. There's absolutely no evidence whatsoever that nature is doing it any differently, that nature needs to process an infinite amount of information. Seth Lloyd, a physicist and quantum information expert, also at MIT, counsels caution with such analogies between the cosmos and an ordinary finite computer. We have no evidence the universe behaves as if it were a classical computer, he says, but there is plenty of evidence that it behaves like a quantum computer. Leading on, rather smoothly, to
California.
yeah, theism. Here it comes.
Pause.
What? No,
Crack on.
just get into theism.
How's that?
Right. So we have to look at theism. So the theist premise. Let's just get back to it on this slide. Right. The theism is scoffed at in the media. You'll literally see people like Richard Dawkins going, "Oh, stuff, absolutely preposterous." And considering that he's backing the spontaneous generation of life on a sterile planet, I'm not sure he's really in any position to scoff at anything. But I actually think that theism gets a hard time. So here's the theist idea. So creature just like us sets out to make a creature just like us, just like King them, and succeeds. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I had this come through the mail from Bruin Dolphin. It's not for anyone in particular. And it has a brief history in it here of artificial intelligence. Now, if you're fans of AI, which I have to admit I'm not, although my brother works in the industry, you may know that in computing terms, well, you probably tell me, who created the world's first programmable electric computer?
Electric.
Yeah. Because Babbage made the first mechanical computer. It's very famous, very, very famous. Lots of films were made about it. Helped us win the war. Turing. 1930 something, 40 something, doesn't really matter. Turing invents Inga or in? Doesn't matter. Alan Turing.
English and history.
It's the beer scale.
That's not the point.
He invents the world's first programmable electric computer. The computer, if I remember rightly, is called Colossus. And the job of the computer is to achieve something which had previously been a matter of faith, which was omnipresence. And that's not usually portrayed in that way, but that's exactly what it's for. Essentially, the people who were working at Bletchley Park wanted to be in the room when the Nazi High Command were making decisions. They could fish those decisions out of the air because they're obviously being beamed around the world in the form of electromagnetic kind of communication, radio waves, but they're encoded. And Colossus was there to crack the code. And they managed to do it, even though Alan Turing couldn't speak any German, which everybody thought would preclude him. But they realised that a couple of people finishing their communiques with Heil Hitler. And so because they knew what the last two words were, they could then kind of give the Colossus a contracted number of options, which it then managed to rattle through faster than a code breaker. Though I should say, at this point, since we're talking about Bletchley Park, is that there was a guy, and I have to admit that at this juncture I've forgotten his name, but there was an even more difficult code called Tunny, more difficult than Enigma, which Colossus couldn't crack, and there was this barking at the moon nutcase who worked at Bletchley Park, who nobody really understood what he was doing or why he was doing it, but he just used to throw himself at the problem of Tunny day after day. And after years of doing so, and not really talking to anybody, he managed to decode it. They'd literally just give him the transcripts, and he would give them the decoded transcripts, and it was the kind of, I think one of the, may have been Patton, said that it was the cerebral feat of the 20th century, not of the war, but of the century. This guy somehow managed to crack a more difficult code than Enigma without just in his head. He was never able to explain how he did it, and no one knows. But he did it, so I thought I'd just name check him here. But anyway, so Alan Turing.
Name check him with that
forgot his
name.
name. Look it up online. Honey, you don't need it. Just go on Google.
Non-name checking.
So that's Colossus.
He made
So we've got Colossus, that's the first ever programmable computer, and that's within my grandfather's lifetime. My grandfather's still alive, and before that there weren't any electric computers. And then we've got a bit of an interesting timeline here. 1950, Turing publishes a paper considering the question of can machines think, and he develops the Turing test. Who knows what that is?
Some sort of psychological test.
It's a test for AI, isn't it?
It's a test for AI, but what you have to do is you have to have a conversation with the artificial intelligence, and you can't tell that it's an artificial intelligence that passes the Turing test. And it's considered an AI, although they're now referred to as an AGI, which is an artificial general intelligence, because obviously you can have brilliant AI for playing Go, that's rubbish at chatting of girls. What you need is one that has a broad range, if it wants to be more general. 1965, Massachusetts Institute of Technology's Joseph Weizenbaum builds ELIZA, a computer program that can have conversations with humans based on scripts and pattern matching. Not very well. 1970s, the AI winter, a period where progress stalls, partly because of a lack of computing power and data, and funders pull out, but research doesn't stop. In the 80s, expert systems that mirror the decision-making capability of human professionals begin to proliferate, and the commercial potential of AI is starting to be recognised. The focus shifts to producing effective narrative rather than general AI. So in the 80s, they realised there was a lack of processing power, and they had to give the AI one job. If they tried to make it general AI, it was just a moron, but it would be brilliant at one thing. 1990s, advances in machine learning accelerate rapidly, becoming more data-driven as the internet develops. The DART AI program was deployed during the Gulf War to optimize logistics and is said to repay the US government's entire investment in AI since the 50s in one war. Then in 1997, IBM's Deep Blue beats chess champion Garry Kasparov